Hey everybody, this is Barry. I want to talk to you about how I installed this Q-Straint QLK-150. It's a wheelchair capture system. You drive your wheelchair in and it locks it for you without having to use any straps or tie downs. And it's got control buttons on the dash. There we go, to release it. And it also has a manual release at the bottom. So anyway, I don't have the footage of installing it, but I'm going to talk you through it. And if you purchase one of these new, or if you purchase one, if you're lucky, you get one, a used one that has all this extra material with it, it's very, very helpful. In fact, I wouldn't try to install it myself without that installation manual for anything. Plus, you don't want to try to install this thing unless you're pretty damn good with your hands, unless you know how to install things in vehicles, if you understand wiring. And you're going to have to take half of this car apart to do it. For instance, I had to take off these panels that run where the door open is here, all the way down to the floor, and then the entire bottom piece all the way around. And that was, looks pretty easy, and it really is until you get up to the front there. And that's just because everything hangs up underneath the center console. And that's one of those little freezer baskets there. So anyway, I wouldn't do it unless you really feel comfortable working on a car and drilling holes in your car and things like that. On the drilling holes issue, when I drill the holes to mount this, fortunately this is a Honda BraunAbility van, and it came with, it's a 2016. It came with a manual, and in that manual it shows you what the guts are underneath. So you have a schematic of where the brake lines and everything are running underneath the car, so you know what to avoid. They even put these stickers down there to tell you, you know, watch out if you're drilling under here. And there's good reason. Right there is a bad spot. Anyway, they show you that. But what they really did that's incredibly great is underneath this panel on the side, they put an extra fuse box, and that fuse box holds the power, the ground, and what they call the ignition. So when the power's onto the ignition, the system's locked and you can't get out of it. And the purpose of that is you don't want to accidentally unlock yourself when you're driving. So you could technically install this thing with just the manual release down here, and you could use it. But it's not safe that way, and it's not safe because you're not locked into the vehicle for sure when it's moving. When you lock into the vehicle, as long as the motor's running, you cannot unlock the unit. And like that seems like it would be a pain in the backside, but you get used to it real quick, and it's really a good safety feature. You really want to have that there. When you purchase this unit, you will get all of the, if you get it new anyway, you'll get all this extra stuff with it. The manuals, and the manual's very well written. It takes you from step one all the way through, testing the system as you're putting it in. The only stuff they leave out is some of the how-to. They'll just say, you know, the installer needs to run the wires, run the cables, that sort of thing. And they don't tell you how. They assume that you know how, and it's up to you to do it properly. So a lot of times you have to excuse me, you have to trust the installer at the mobility place, and I just don't trust the place that we have here in town to do this kind of work. And they wouldn't respond to my questions well anyway, so I did it myself. Anyway, back to what you get with it. You get this little box here. Hope I'm pointing at it well enough on screen. That little box is the controller. Everything plugs into it. There's 3 sets of plugs. One goes to the unit itself, one goes to the little remote control button to turn on and off, and the other one goes to the power. They give you a second little baggie there that's got the additional button in it, and you add that button to the button that goes into the controller side. It's pretty easy to stick the wires in and tighten down on those screws. And you now have a wired auxiliary button, and that's just so the person nearest the chair can release himself if you want that person to be able to do it. you get these big metal plates. These go underneath the car to bolster it. When you put the screws in it, they give you the screws and nuts and all, but they weren't long enough. So if you have to replace them, just make sure you get number 8s. You want to make sure they're corrosion resistant. I went with stainless steel, so they're really hard. The way you go about setting this whole thing up is, when you get the QLK, it comes with, well, it doesn't, but when you get the bracket, it comes with this bolt. And the bracket is one of the reasons that I decided to do this myself, because the brackets are silly expensive. $400, $800, or at least $700 I've seen. The one for my chair was about $450, and it's literally a piece of metal, and it's got a nut welded in it, and you put the screw in. I don't see the magic for that price. So I bought one for a different chair that was very similar to mine. I had to trim the metal down. I did it with a Dremel circular saw, and then I just re-drilled it, repainted it, it was done. Anyway, this screws into the center of that unit, and this locks you into the car. This also comes with a locking nut on here that holds it in, and a bunch of Loctite. Anyway, so the way you set this up is you put the plate on the bottom of the car, on the bottom of the chair, and the way I did it on mine was I removed the battery from inside, emptied the chair out, put it on its side, drilled the holes. There were directions with the one that I bought, and I pretty much followed them, bolted it all in, and then you put this on, you sit the unit on the floor, and then you basically drive this into it and get it lined up inside the van. So you're now in the van, you get the seat situated properly so that the seat belt is above your shoulder. It's got to come down over your shoulder. From behind you, you've got to make sure you're far enough from the airbags, and all that information is in the documentation about how far, if you have to turn off the airbag and that sort of thing. So once you're positioned properly, you now mark the location for that. Make sure there's nothing underneath of it. Drill your holes, they're like 3/8" holes, and bolt it in place. Before you bolt it in place, you have to also drill a hole and run the wires underneath the bottom as well. So once you have positioned this and you're ready to drill it, or you already have drilled it out, you run the wires underneath. There's 2 sets of wires to run underneath. There's the wire that comes on the back of the unit. This thing is pretty darn heavy. It connects to the control. And then there's a second wire that goes to the manual release, if the one you buy comes with the manual release. And it's really pretty straightforward. I'll show you how to do it in the book. You just pull this pin off. You drop a little ball in there. It's a little ball and wire. It connects here, and it pulls this for you. It's the same thing as throwing this lever. You can reach that lever, you can pop out of the chair, and the power does nothing but take this little oh shoot, the name escapes me what it is right now. Anyway, it takes it and a solenoid, pops it loose, or an actuator, and disengages you. So the bolt locks you in. You can't get out till you turn the power off. Once you turn the power off, it'll let you disengage, unless you're using the manual. If you're using the manual, you can disengage at any time, and that's the dangerous thing about the manual. So we've got this put in now. The wires, once you run the wires, go underneath. Like I said, you have to take all this plastic trim off. Then you hook up your power source. Now for me, it was underneath of this panel. I had to go look on YouTube and find out how to take it all off on this van to do it without breaking anything. So that's really up to you to figure that one out. I had to take these panels off here at the top as well, where the buttons are. The little red button on the right hand side, that's the auxiliary button, and then on the left hand side is the little driver's side pad. Now that little pad sticks on there really well, but if you look close, you can see where I had to punch a little hole in it. You really can't see it with your naked eye. It looks like this, and it's super thin, it's super malleable and flexible, and it's got this tape on the back. This tape cures after, I think, 48 hours, they said. You can buy this on Amazon. I think this was about $8 for 5 of these little squares, or you can buy a roll of it. So if you buy one of these that's used and that tape's already been used, you can take your thumb and you can work it off. It takes you a while to do it, but once you get it all rolled off of there, you can put a new one of these on, and that way it stays super thin, super flexible, and it's going to stick on there. So once you cut the little hole, you find your spot and you remove that part of the dash, you cut your hole and you fish this through there, and once you fish it through, you stick this on there. And it stayed perfectly as soon as I put it on there, and that's using the tape that I bought on Amazon, which is identical to this tape. I think it's 32nds of an inch is their size. So just look for that name, 3M VHB, and it's 2-inch squares. Anyway, the same thing over here. I just had to find a spot for this, for the button on the right side, drill the hole. I fished them underneath, did a nice little cable management. I tied the cables all up, connected them to the power on the right hand side, and that was it. Everything was set up. I make it sound easy. What was really hard for me was drilling all these holes and getting things bolted up in there, because the skirt on the fan is very low. So you've got to have a nice heavy jack and lift it up high, and then put safety jacks underneath there as well. In case that jack fails, it doesn't come down on you, because there's no room. If it comes down on you, you are crunched. And this van is lowered 11 inches, so it's really, really close to the ground, and it's tough to get in and out of. The cable for, I failed to mention this, for the manual release is really straightforward. It's just a little wire with a little metal ball on the end of it that goes into the little gear I showed you, and when you step on that one up there, it pops it free. Very straightforward. I really don't like their application though of that switch, because it's huge, it's awkward, it's shaped strangely, it's very difficult to find a place to put it that it's comfortable. And I assume what they were going for with that big ring was to make it so that someone who has difficulty using their hands is able to hit it. I suspect that's what they were going for anyway. But that giant ring really limits where you can mount the unit at. The last thing I didn't mention is that little black triangle or object on the floor there, this guy. What that does is, on the front of your chair, you have a little fork that sticks out in front of the plate. And that grabs that plate so that it keeps, it's torsional stability is what it is. So if you're in an accident, your chair can't turn left or right, because right now it can rotate on that pin in the system. It doesn't rotate much if you get a good tight fit, but it can. In an accident, it's going to be a lot of force. It's liable to try to pick you up a little and move you. So to keep you from turning, you have that, and I believe it's you legally have to have that installed if you're on the driver's side, and they recommend it on the passenger side. I just haven't drilled it yet. I'm going to do that next weekend and mount that so that when I lock in, it'll lock me at the front and I won't slide side to side. I want to demonstrate for you real quick how this setup works. When the chair comes in, this unit locks, and it won't rattle, you won't hear anything. It's really solid. And you'll notice now the light comes on, and that tells you that you're locked into the system. So to get out of the system, you have to push the button and it threw this thing out. So don't use your finger in there. Problem is, it only stays unlocked for 10 seconds, and it will lock you back in there if you haven't backed up. Okay, there you have it. That's the whole setup that I can tell you about anyway. If you can afford it, just go pay for the thing at the dealer and let them install it. It really makes the most sense to do it that way. It's the safest way to do it. The manual says it's required. So, good luck to you.